Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to IBSI's Forum on Africa, Israel, and Black America. I am your host, Joshua Washington, the Executive Director of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Olga Washington. Olga, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. We have quite a few things to get into today. I want to make sure everyone can hear Olga and this microphone here.
Sounds good.
Okay, just let us know if it's too soft. So there's a lot of stuff we got to get into, but let's first start with announcements. First of all, if this is your first time checking us out, visit our website at IBSI.org to hear more about the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, why we do, and why it's so crucial. You can also follow us, subscribe to our Substack page, ibsi.substack.com, or go to Africa Israel Weekly and become a subscriber. You can become a free subscriber, or you can be a paid subscriber and get premium content.
The premium content's where it's all at.
Yeah, there's a lot of great premium content, premium articles. We've had some podcast episodes, and we have more coming up. All that's premium. And if you want to hear from some really incredible people that we bring along with us, become a premium subscriber to our Substack. Also, become a legacy builder with IBSI. That is someone who gives regularly, that sets up a monthly amount and gives like automatic giving, like you would any kind of subscription plan. You can give a very little amount if you want to. I always say, hey, maybe start with $18 a month, something like that. You can always increase it whenever you want. And it's those monthly amounts that really keep IBSI going. So please consider becoming a legacy builder. Go to ibsi.org/donate. And you can see the options there to give to IBSI. Also, IBSI Pastors Presents. That is every third Tuesday. This month, it'll be on the fourth Tuesday, June 25th. That poster is not updated, so please just listen to me and not what the poster says, but it's moved to June the 25th this month, which happens to be our CEO and our COO's wedding anniversary, the 36th double high wedding anniversary, and they're spending part of it doing this with us. So make sure you sign up for that. June 15th, that is this weekend, I will be in Harlem, New York, with at Zion Cafe with our good friend BJ. She's the owner of Zion Cafe. It's an Ethiopian restaurant. She's an Ethiopian Israeli. Her restaurant has been placed on a boycott list. Her restaurant's been vandalized several times since October 7th for none other than she is an Israeli and she is a proud Israeli. And so we are having a fundraiser. I'm going there. I'm going to be doing some music. There'll be lots of food there. Please come. There's a QR code on that poster that you see right there. You can scan it. And we're asking for a suggested $36 donation. If you're going to come out, enjoy some great food, listen to some music. We'll be outside playing. Food will be inside. People will be all over the place. It's going to be so much fun. So please come out on the 15th to Harlem and let's hang out together. Last but not least, June 18th, we have a very special Juneteenth event in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we have a special guest who we had a few weeks ago, Mr. Simon Dang, who is a former slave from South Sudan. He is a political activist. He is a speaker. He is an educator. This man has done so many things in his career, and he's coming back to Charlotte to speak to our community about his plight, what he's gone through, and also what he's doing now with the African Jewish Alliance to combat slavery on the African continent. That's going to be a very special event.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, there's two times, 1:30 and 7 p.m. We advise that the 7 p.m. one, if you can, to come to that one. They're both going to be amazing. But if you sign up, we would love to see you at 7. It's going to be lots of things happening that night. And I think it'll also be a little bit more intimate. So if you want to be able to engage and all that stuff, come see Simon at 7 p.m. in Gorelick Hall at Shalom Park.
If I can just say one thing there, it is also an event that is going to be amazing for your young people. This is a topic that many young people have not heard about before. It's really going to be meaningful. It's also going to be impactful at the same time. So please don't come alone. Not only bring your neighbors and your friends with you, but bring your young people too.
Absolutely. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everyone to come. It's going to be a very impactful event. All right, you guys, let's get right into it. First, I'm actually going to kick it off to Olga for a big portion of this, but first we have a video that we want to show you. It's a preview of one of our content videos that we've just released, and we are going to show it to you right now. Producer, if you have it up, if you could please play that video now, and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
From the ISGAP website, on December 5th, 2023, U.S. House of Representatives committee members asked the presidents of 3 prestigious universities in the United States about the funding that they received from Qatar. The impression given by most of them was that their Qatari funding is not coming from the state. This answer is a partial truth, as billions of U.S. dollars are going to them via Qatari state-owned NGOs and commercial entities. ISGAP's Follow the Money project, previous reports have laid out the following. Qatar is the largest foreign donor to the U.S. universities. The Muslim Brotherhood's Islamist ideology is intertwined with the state. And furthermore, the links that Qatar has with the Muslim Brotherhood's Palestinian chapter, Hamas. The money coming from foreign states such as Qatar is having a direct effect on increasing anti-Semitism and anti-democratic activity. This report lays out the way that Qatar is operating a war chest with between 500 billion to 1 trillion US dollars of assets and growing to affect soft power in the West, including the US's prestigious universities. While there were many mainstream media articles discussing the 3 Ivy League presidents and their hearing on Capitol Hill, there's been relatively little reporting about the billions in Qatari or Chinese funding flooding our colleges. Why? Could it be that the U.S. politicians and the media are feigning concern about campus anti-Semitism without tackling some of the root causes?
So to check out more, the whole video, go to our website. It's on our YouTube page and everything. You can see the whole thing. IBSI's been talking about that for a while. Do you have any comments on the little clip we just saw, Olga?
Well, first of all, that young lady in that video is none other than my sister-in-law, Josh's sister, one of his sisters. We want to give a shout out to her, Miss Leah. This is a topic that many people aren't familiar with, but it's a very, very important topic, especially as parents prepare to send their children to school in the upcoming fall. Just as that clip showed that there's been a lot of hoo-ha around the president, there's been a lot of hoo-ha at what, in our opinion, is a very superficial level. As to how to tackle this. Either yourself or our CEO wrote an opinion piece on how the students and what's happening on the student campuses, whether it be these youngsters that are engaged in these, they say it's anti-war, but it's actually pro-Hamas encampments on the one side, and then our brave Zionists, particularly our Jewish brothers and sisters that are going out there encountering this, that they're actually pawns on a bigger chess piece. And this particular video drills down into what is the root cause for the issues that we're experiencing on college campuses across America, and that if we really want to deal with the rise in anti-Semitism, then we aren't just going to speak to the youngsters that are acting ridiculously and actually don't know what they're doing half the time, or even pump more money into these organizations that are doing a great job, we must say, without dealing with the root cause. Because if you just deal with the superficial, we're going to see reiterations of this year after year after year, and unfortunately, it's going to get much worse.
Absolutely. We know at a certain point, we've all, I think, spoken and written about this. As a matter of fact, the timing of this video was for those of you who have kids going to college soon. This is summertime. You definitely want to watch this video. Definitely share it with your friends as you're getting ready for the new school year. Because,
sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you.
No, I was going to say, because this is a reality that's been a reality for some decades now, and like the video alludes to, like it talks about just in the clip. It's been going on for a while, and it's been going on kind of mostly unchecked. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, perhaps we want to spend 1 or 2 minutes on answering the question, why should we care about the money trail, right? Joshua, some people will be like, okay, what? Organizations get funding from donors from time to time. So universities are also going to get funding from time to time. Right. Why should we care about following the money?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question. Oh, someone said it sounds like my mic went off. Can everybody hear me still? Just let me know if you can't hear me. Just want to make sure before I start talking. Here, I'll turn mine up a little bit. Okay, this should be better. Let me know if this is better. Well, first and foremost, my question to that question is, why is it okay that money that goes directly to our education systems that educate our children why does that come from other countries? Even if they're not, like, okay, Qatar is one of the biggest slave trading countries in the world. Even if Qatar was an amazing country, still the question would be, why are we relying on a country that's not ours to fund our education system? So it doesn't make any sense. And now let's insert the fact that Qatar and China, these places are like human rights suppressors, and these places do trade slaves. These countries do have policies that are crushing to their own people, and they're also not friendly to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things put together goes, okay, there's definitely some sort of agenda, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, okay, some people in the US are definitely being paid off to keep quiet about this. Because how are we going to say that we as a country, as protectors of this country, right? I'm talking about our political leaders, defending our country from evil powers, both foreign and domestic, but we're allowing those foreign powers to pump money into our schools. If they're pumping money into our schools, then they must be dictating something. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense. We shouldn't be okay with this. It shouldn't be okay.
100%. So dictating something, influencing what the curriculum looks like, influencing what type of studies the different courses would have to showcase, influencing the type of teachers that are being employed at these particular institutions, right? Like nothing's for free. And so there's billions of dollars that are being pumped into our education system. And we've seen, unfortunately, the results of it in this last year. But even from previous years, the type of anti-Semitic ideology that's been taught from the professors is ridiculous. And if we are going to be serious about dealing with this matter, it needs to be dealt with at the core. So yes, absolutely. Not only watch this particular video, but please, please, please share it with everybody that you know and that you care about in relation to their university teachings, where they're going to be going in the fall.
Absolutely. And I also have to say this. I've been thinking about this for a little while, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this too, Olga, because I would look at this. Even we've talked about UNRWA for a while.
Yeah.
How corrupt UNRWA is. How, there's one definition of refugees for everyone else in the world. There's a completely different definition for Palestinians, and how UNRWA gets all this money, billions of dollars based on how many refugees they are. But then you find out that people like DJ Khaled count as a refugee. Bella and Gigi Hadid count as Palestinians because their father or their grandfathers were refugees. So now, even though they're Americans and they make millions of dollars, they're still considered refugees. So UNRWA gets funding for them, right? So we've talked about that. And we've talked about the fact that most of the time, just like with the college campuses, that goes unchecked. No one really talks about that much. No one really exposes every once in a while. And one thing that I've noticed is that a few months ago, that became a popular talking point at some point, because I think it was found out that UNRWA employees were housing hostages in their homes. UNRWA employees were aiding and abetting October 7th. UNRWA employees were responsible for this. So
keeping hostages,
they still are. I mean, all this kind of stuff, right? But the thing is, so now everyone wants to talk about that, which is fine. But the problem is, UNRWA employees were saying very, very dastardly Jew-hating things and teaching this to their kids years ago. There's a report in 2017 and 2019. I mean, this wasn't something that was hidden. And so for me, when we're silent all this time, and then all of a sudden we all decide with one loud voice to speak up about this, it looks staged. And one of the accusations that I've seen from the other side is that we're getting marching orders, okay, from the Israeli government, and they're telling us now to make up these lies about UNRWA. And I get where that propaganda could get a foothold, because then the question becomes, okay, if UNRWA's been doing this all this time, why haven't you guys been saying anything? You're in this space. You've been in this space for X amount of years, and you haven't been speaking about this. And so for me, one of the dangers of not calling out, whether it's the funding that goes into our schools or the money or UNRWA's corruption, is that if you only speak the truth when it's convenient for you, the truth still won't get out, because one of the things that's happening now is that people are accusing you of lying, because their biggest thing is, why haven't you said it before? Okay, if I've been doing you dirty for 20 years, why are you picking right now to speak up about it? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think, on the other hand, there are some people who just did not know, right? And that's not who you're talking about. You're talking about people that have deliberately known this and deliberately withheld this information, have been cowed cowardice to speak out and to call this out, and have rather, as you say, kept it because it suited them. It was convenient for them. And now, because most of the world, unfortunately not enough of it, is calling attention to the fact that UNRWA has been behaving and housing anti-Semitism in the way that it has, now only they're speaking up. What's unfortunate, though, is that we even find some people, in my opinion, who ride the wave that when it's the trend to speak up, they'll speak up. If you look at many of the voices that were condemning UNRWA, they're quiet now, right? They're quiet because, well, there's now other things to be concerned about, other areas to be calling out. It's like, no. If your commitment is to truth, wherever you're saying that you are focused on, then be committed to that truth in that area. It doesn't matter if people like you, don't like you. Truth is truth, and it should be brought to light at all times. So absolutely. So for people that are in the academic space, people that are concerned about the anti-Semitism on our college campuses, which, as we know, does not only affect our Jewish brothers and sisters, they are the primary target, but it affects Zionists. It even affects people who ask questions. We have seen on social media somebody walk into a place and ask a question and say, okay, but why are we here? This doesn't make sense. Let's just apply logic and critical thinking. And then they're thrown out and called all sorts of names. This is an attack on not only freedoms, it's an attack on our values in Western civilization, particularly in America. And so if you are committed to these things, then you will choose to speak the truth, to highlight what the truth is. And when you know it, then do something about it too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, Olga. So I see your guys' comments. It's good to see you here. People from LA. I see people saying hi from LA. Someone said, when and where can I join the event you talked about for 7 p.m.? You'll have to be more specific. We have a few events that start at 7, maybe the June 18th.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Event in Charlotte. That's 7:30. No, 7 p.m. It's in Shalom Park, the JCC in Shalom Park, 7 p.m. Charlotte, North Carolina. Scan the QR code. You have to RSVP. I don't think we're taking any people walking in at the last second. You have to RSVP. So if you want to come, please RSVP and put in your information so that we'll know who you are and that you're coming.
Just on that note, are we going to be live streaming it for people that can't come? I mean, you need to come, but if somebody's living across the country and they can't make it,
as of now, we won't be. But things might change. So yeah, we will let people know. We will be taking some footage from different parts of the night. But as far as live streaming, we'll know closer to the date and we'll let you all know. But yes, if you're nearby, if you're not too far, look, shout out to Pastor Matrilla Hall in Atlanta, one of our IBSI pastors. She's driving all the way up from Atlanta to come to this event in Charlotte. So if you're just not too far away, I would totally recommend coming up and checking it out. Good to see you, Pastor Matrilla. We're looking forward to seeing you on the 18th, ma'am. Okay. So our CEO just published an article in our Substack. If you are not subscribed, again, go to ibsi.substack.org and subscribe. Become a paid subscriber right now and help IBSI in our fight. The new article is called "The NAACP Sides with Biden in Protecting Hamas." Subtitle is "Palestine is not a Black issue. It never was." Part 2, because he wrote another one, part 1, just actually like a week ago. And for those who are unaware, the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, issued an official press statement urging the Biden-Harris administration to stop shipments of weapons targeting civilians in Israel. They're pushing for a ceasefire, right? This is what they're saying. And they put out a whole statement about why that needs to happen in Israel's, all the stuff that we hear all the time, indiscriminately targeting and purposely targeting civilians, and we need to indefinitely stop giving weapons to them, all this stuff. And so please check out the article. Our CEO highlights not just the falsehoods in what the NAACP is saying about Israel, but goes even deeper to talk about how in all of this time, NAACP has been silent not just about Israel, silent not just about what happened on October 7th, which is fine. You know what? If you're silent on October 7th and your reason is it's not in our purview, I mean, that's fine. That's fair. Fine. You have your own issues to focus on. Israel's way over there. The only problem is, and we keep seeing this time and time again, we've seen it in Oakland, we've seen it we talked about South Africa last week, is that there's silence on certain parts of what's going on. And then there's weighing in on how Israel is now responding to what happened on October 7th. So it's, oh, okay, so you are interested in what's going on in the Middle East. You just don't care when the Israelis are being slaughtered. You only care when there seems to be civilian casualties in Gaza. Okay, cool. Well, at least now we know where you stand. I would ask that you just be more honest from the outset and not act like you're just not involved at all. So the NAACP is taking its time now in this press release to condemn Israel, to falsely condemn Israel, to demand the administration punish Israel in these ways. But the NAACP, now if we're going to talk about issues abroad, and I'm going to bring you in, Olga, too. Sorry, I'm just talking now. Is that even now when we're talking about issues abroad, the NAACP has said absolutely nothing about the million plus slaves in Libya, has said nothing about the slaves in Sudan, says nothing about the slave trade that goes all across from Sudan to Mauritania to Algeria, nothing about any of those things, right? Fine, it's not in America, but then why are you all the way in Israel? Right? Like, okay, then fine, but why are you now? Why is all your energy now is being spent making these demands about Israel? This is not only asinine, but it is a betrayal both to the Jewish people and to the Black people that you say you're committed to advancing, because you're not advancing. You're once again speaking up on behalf of a people who either don't care about this issue, the small minority that might agree with you, but the most people who either are pro-Israel or just are focused on what's going on in my community, what's going on in my town, that you already don't really speak up about in the first place. Does that make sense, Olga?
It does. And I also don't think that it helps their cause in the sense that in them wanting there to be the cessation of the transfer of arms to Israel because they want the war to end, it doesn't help the people in Gaza that are really suffering as a result, not only of the war, but of Hamas, who started the war. I know later on in the show that we're going to cover an interesting video that's doing the rounds where you see this gentleman in total angst and anguish, like crying out and saying that we're tired for Hamas. But it does nothing. So what, you're going to call out Israel and then not call out Hamas or even the Palestinian Authority, who America, by the way, is also helping in terms of its arming of Hamas and that. So it's like, okay, what exactly are you doing? Number one. Number two, to your point about as an organization primarily representing the interests of Black people, fine, you've decided to now go outside of the borders of the United States of America. Why not come to Africa? Come to my place. I mean, it's a question that we asked when we were looking at Black Lives Matter many years ago, at least what feels like many years ago, when people were saying, oh, no, but Black Lives Matter is about America and justice here, Okay, fine. But then when they started to overreach and go across the pond, go across the Atlantic Ocean, it was like, all right, well then if you're going to go across the Atlantic Ocean, there is this massive continent filled with a lot of Black people. Yes, I'm being facetious, I'm being sarcastic, but it's filled with a lot of people. So you have a vast number of people whose causes you can take up, from slavery to sex slavery to genital mutilation, to the oppression in terms of working conditions. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And we are going to show this video because it's kind of connected, but you're absolutely right in that it actually, whether you intend for it to or not, runs cover for those things happening in Africa. Because you're supposed to be the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, right? And we talked about colored is a different definition in South Africa. In America, it means someone of color is basically someone who's not white, but in this case, Black, right? So, like you said, so for you to now to speak on Israel and still not speak about what's going on in the Congo, in the DRC, or in Libya, or in Nigeria, you're tacitly giving approval or covering up for those things. What you're saying is everything's fine over there, but things are the worst in Israel. We need to speak up about Israel. So you're further taking people's attention away from things that they should be focused on. Now, in this same vein, I want to show the video that Olga was just referencing. Yeah, sorry.
Before we go to the video, can I just read a comment on the Substack article that we're referring to? It's from somebody that's read it, and it's in relation to the author, who is our CEO. You've done a terrific job of taking a complex issue and writing about it logically and easy to understand for people who are clueless about the Middle East, as well as how the African Black community, as well as how the American Black community has been poorly served. So that's just somebody who's noted that this is a fantastic article, which not only explains the issue here in the United States as it pertains to the NAACP, but also the complexity of what's taking place in the Middle East at the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of that complexity, let's go ahead and show that next video. Producer, if you have that, let's take a look at that, and then we'll... This is in Gaza, by the way. So this video is taking place in Gaza. This is a Gazan civilian surrounded by Gazan civilians. All right, go ahead, producer.
أنا دكتور أكاديمي. أنا الحمد لله مكتفي ذاتيا والحمد لله حياتي غنية كويسة. نحن صامدين صحيح، لكن قيادتنا قيادة وسخة من هنا مستشفى شهداء الأقصى. قيادتنا ألفت الدماء، ألفت هذا الحال، ألفت هذا الحال، ألفت. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فيهم. اللهم إنهم نحن خصماهم يوم القيامة. اللهم أصابنا في هذه الأيام العشر، أيام الحجة، أيام يا رب أستحلفكم بالله هذا المقطع يضل يروح للقيادة الفلسطينية. أنا شخص الحمد لله على مستوى من العقل والعلم والإيمان، أنا زي كافة الشعب، لكن تزعلوش، شعب جبان، شعب جبان. والله يرزقنا. فصلت امبارح كنا في منع عنها، وصل اوقفناها، وصل اوقفناها يا عم.
بس تعال معنا.
روح على الاسعاف يا عم، روح على الاسعاف. يا رب حاجه يا عم، يا رب. القيادة بقى في دم، بقى في قتل، وانتوا اللي عندكم. والله وتعالى قيادة لا تمثلنا، لا تمثلنا، والله لا تمثلنا.
So that video was in Gaza, very recent video. Obviously, he referenced the attack that happened yesterday, or
the rescue of the hostages on Saturday.
On Saturday. So this was just a few days ago now. A friend of ours shared it with Olga, and Olga shared it with us, and we've been sharing it, and it's been going all over the place. Everyone's been sharing it. It's been blowing up. And we're looking at the comments, we're seeing some of the reactions, and it's almost like it's a spectrum of reactions, right? You have some people who believe that there's this, sizable group in Gaza who just want peace. You have people who don't believe that that's true. They think the group is much smaller. We have some who believe that there's no civilian in Gaza wants peace at all. There are a lot of civilians who participated in October 7th, who helped Hamas. There are civilians who are holding captive the hostages as we speak. Hamas said a couple months ago, they don't know where all the hostages are. And that's because they didn't take all of the hostages. Some of the civilians took the hostages. So, and then you have people saying their sentiments are, well, good for, he deserves what he gets because he celebrated on October 7th and now he's crying now, which, we don't know if he specifically did it, but we understand the sentiment, right? That the climate in Gaza generally was yay October 7th. So whoever was against it, we hear some voices here and there, but it seems like they're a smaller minority. And that's unfortunately due to the decades of propaganda that gets pumped into these people as children. These are taught, this Jew hatred is taught in preschools, kindergartens, elementary schools, all that kind of stuff. They're taught songs about killing Jews. They're taught about stabbing and how to stab a Jew. They're children's television shows where, it's like Barney almost, like there's adults dress up as like an animal, like a bumblebee or something. And they're talking to children about what their aspirations are. And their aspirations are to die murdering Jews, right? So this is stuff that's taught to them. So unfortunately, and this is just my opinion, I'm of the belief that there's a small minority of Gazans that really do not just hate Hamas, but want peace with Israel, because you have Gaza civilians who hate Hamas, but they still hate Israel, right? They don't like the leadership of Hamas, but they still hate Jews. And so we don't know exactly what this guy believes, although there are some comments that say that there's a longer video and that he talks about cursing the Jews and all that kind of stuff. However, that doesn't really change the message that we heard here. Even if we heard the whole video, and he did say very, very ugly things about Jews in Israel. In some ways, that actually kind of strengthens what we've been saying, which is that what we've been saying, meaning all of us as advocates of Israel, is that Hamas puts their people in harm's way on purpose. This guy's a doctor. He's not some guy on the street. He's a doctor saying, no, this could have been avoided. Our leaders, they want bloodshed. This is on them. And that itself is a powerful message. That itself is a message that needs to still get shared everywhere. Even if there's another video with more footage of him cursing the Jews, his message here still needs to get out, because the people who are still ready to hear that will hear that. And it'll, in terms of changing hearts and minds, that is something that could do that. I don't know if you have, what are your thoughts on this?
It's important also to note that the expression that he is posturing now may not only be a reaction to what's going on now, but also an expression of what we've heard as well as seen before October 7th.
Yeah.
Very soon after Hamas came into power, we saw how it dealt with people that were speaking up against it. There's no freedom of press. There's no freedom for women. There's no freedom of the press. I think I already said that. There's very limited freedom, and people that are hostile or that dare question Hamas and what it does, including its policies, are dealt with in terrible ways, including death itself. In 2017, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not 2017, it's 2019, Joshua, there was a march where Palestinians living in Gaza were saying, we want to live. They were marching and trying to raise attention to the world to say, help us, like our leaders who are Hamas. That hasn't changed. It's the very same Hamas that committed the atrocities on October 7. We are suffering underneath their rule. And so time and time and time again, we hear the voices of the Palestinian people saying, help us. But the world, because it doesn't suit the narrative in relation to, oh no, it's the Jews and it's Israel only that is causing the suffering that's being experienced by them, then the world does nothing. So the question I have is, okay, you were deaf to them then, either willfully or ignorantly. You're definitely not ignorant now, because it's all over social media in the wake of October 7th. So what are you going to do about it? If you are saying that you are truly a pro-Palestinian advocate, you want to see peace for the Palestinian, you want to see an end to the violence and the bloodshed, because there is bloodshed, then will you have the courage to call out the cause for the bloodshed and for the harm? The incredible rescue that took place on October 7, on Saturday, as a result of the hostages that have been kept for 8 months now since October 7, was fascinating for several reasons. One of them is because 3 of the 4 hostages that were kept in the home of an innocent civilian. Right? Now, people are all over, up in uproar, because this particular civilian was killed together with family, together with individuals who were in that particular apartment. And now the world is in uproar, because how can you kill civilians? Well, hello, how are you harboring and holding captive hostages? Same story with the single hostage that was released, Noah, also kept by civilians. And so when civilians are killed, or unfortunately when the IDF has to go in and rescue their hostages who are in apartments, and so you can appreciate the fact that if it's my apartment that is holding a hostage, there's going to be other apartments and other people that are potentially going to be caught in the line of fire, but nobody wants to call that out. Like, are you being serious? How many more deaths need to happen for us to be able to be like, you know what is the cause of this? What is the root of this? Not only now in war, but as we've already expressed from several years back. So don't call yourself a lover of peace, human rights activists, if you aren't starting to pay attention to the cries of the Palestinian people in relation to Hamas.
Absolutely. And this is also why there's no way we can trust the civilian casualty count, even as it is. So a couple weeks ago, the UN already had to stand up and say, oops, our bad. We had the numbers doubled on accident. We have to cut the numbers in half.
In relation to women and children.
Women and children, right? It's actually half as much. Okay, but now we're also seeing that innocent civilians are being counted as civilians who aren't innocent, basically. So you're technically not on Hamas's payroll, but you're working for Hamas. That's not an innocent civilian. And you can't count that as an innocent civilian even if I didn't enlist in the army. If I decide to take up a gun and run out in the street with the troops, start shooting at people, if I die, it would be misleading to say a civilian died doing XYZ. Yes, but at least give context. Well, that civilian decided to take up arms and fight with the arm. Okay, well, that's a little bit different, right? So 200 civilians were killed. Well, how many of those civilians were holding hostages? How many of those civilians worked for Hamas or were doing Hamas's bidding? We don't know. But again, like Olga, like you were saying, it does more harm to people than good to not consider or not figure out what the cause of this is.
Mm-hmm.
No one, the same people who are up in arms about how Israel is rescuing its hostages and how Israel is rescuing its own people were silent when those people were taken in the first place. So there's already a moral imbalance with a lot of these activists, these social justice warriors, these people who claim to be anti-war. You're already morally skewed because you didn't speak up when the hostages were taken. You didn't speak up when women were raped repeatedly. You didn't speak up when babies were murdered, but you spoke up when Israel got them back. So really, it just seems like, going back to NAACP, calling for Israel to no weapons to Israel and Israel. Okay, but Hamas won't stop. So what you're really doing is you're calling for Israel to be destroyed. You're calling for the Israelis to be slaughtered. That's really what you're saying. How else are we supposed to take that? A ceasefire can only happen if Hamas agrees to one. They haven't.
Mm-hmm.
They broke the ceasefire on October 7th. There was a ceasefire on October 6th. So for you to say Israel can't have any weapons, they need to stop dropping bombs, they can't go and get their hostages because it's going to kill people, there's no excuse for it, then what you're saying is your hostages are there, get over it. Your people are dead, get over it, and you'll probably be destroyed and you need to get over it. That's what you're saying. Just come out and say that at that point, because that's what, yeah.
I also want to just add in terms of your finger count, right? So you did those three, and then let's add maybe one or two more in relation to the Gazans themselves. I wonder if those voices were speaking out when Hamas was killing them when they were trying to get aid from the humanitarian trucks. Were you saying anything when Hamas was killing its own people, or even saying anything when the rockets would misfire and fall and kill innocent Palestinian people, or at least Palestinian people that were in the line of fire for that? Like, where are your voices then? Really, many people, we are realizing more and more and more, are just Jew haters. End of story. Like, you have no desire to be in the game, but to see the destruction of the Jewish people in the state of Israel.
Absolutely. Speaking up and advocating for justice is not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. You if you're doing it to the best of your ability, you're going to say things that make people angry. You're going to say things that go against the grain, and I'm talking about the grain within your sphere, right? Within your culture. This isn't an IBSI, but I wrote in my own Substack about being an artist and an activist, and how right now it's especially a tense time in the music space because a lot of my peers are just either virtue signaling, so they posted the All Eyes on Rafa stuff because they felt like they were supposed to, and then you have those who are really caught up in this, who really believe all the stuff that they're being fed and not really willing to take a step forward and see what's actually happening. And then I realized that no, it's not that they don't know what the truth is. They can't accept it because that would mean that they're going against now the majority of their peers. And that doesn't feel good. No one wants to live a life that's contrary to everybody or to most people. But if you're going to be in this advocacy space, any advocacy space, that's going to happen at some point. And you're going to have to understand that sometimes you're going to be standing by yourself saying, no, but this is wrong. And this is what's actually happening. And if you're not willing to do that, then you really shouldn't be in the space at all. I had something else I was going to say with that, but I can't remember what I was going to say. But that's fine. We'll end it right there. So you guys, did you have anything else to add to that, Olga?
No.
So I want to shift gears for just a moment because I want to talk about something that's not getting as much attention, but is still worth discussing and kind of getting into a little bit of the controversy of. But these, after October 7th, and especially when the war started, there was a shortage of lots of different jobs in Israel because people were going off to war. I mean, you have to understand, Israel's not a big country. So there were news reporters that went off to war, farmers that went off to war, people who had mom and pop shops that closed it down and went off to war. So there's all these, certain places in Israel are kind of ghost towns right now because people are fighting. And so Israel has tons of programs that bring in people from particularly different African countries. They give them usually these like paid internships, and they go and they learn how to do agriculture and all that stuff. And then after the internship's over, they go back home and they teach this stuff to their families. We talked about that with Joshua Malal and Felix Matinga from Tanzania. They were in Israel learning, and their plans were to go back and start a business, an agricultural business, and teach this stuff to their people so that their country can grow and thrive and flourish. So Israel does this all the time, no strings attached. And so they had a lot of workers from Malawi that were working their fields, like farming and everything, for pay. Unfortunately, the story that has been going out and what's being reported is that the Israeli government is deporting some of those workers. And I want Olga to kind of explain more what's going on with that, with the Malawian workers.
So the reason why we decided to add this to the forum this evening is to ensure that when this really starts to kick up, if it does, we suspect that it will, because if there's any opportunity to put Israel in a negative light, specifically as it pertains to Black people, then people are going to do that.
Yep.
Is that sometimes you just have to apply common sense and logic and law and order. So you heard it from us first before it starts to blow up. So like Joshua says, there's a need for different forms of labor, particularly on the farms, as a result of not only those that were taken hostage and or killed, but also the displacement of many in Israel at this time. And so we have had a lot of people, and in this instance, Malawians. It's interesting to note that Malawi is actually a very pro-Israel country, such that the Malawian government, the president is a Christian. He announced that they are hoping to move their embassy to Jerusalem.
Nice.
But that's a side note. So we've got these Malawians that then go across to Israel and they're working and wada. And some are unhappy with the pay. Now that's happened before. I'm sure to you, Josh, it's happened to me where I don't like how much I'm being paid for. Maybe I feel that it's too little. Maybe it is perhaps too little as it is comparable to the minimum wage. And so what these individuals then did was they then stopped working where they were assigned to work, and they went and they chose new jobs that was contrary to the conditions for why they were in the country. And so it is as a result of them breaching the conditions for being in Israel that they are now being deported. When I came to the United States of America, I came on a student visa, and there were very strict criteria as to what I could do, what I could not do, including where and for how many hours I could work. And if Olga breached that, she would be deported. It's a condition of a visa. It's a condition for being in the country. And so here we have not Israel being racist and just choosing to deport Africans, but Africans, for whatever reasons they may have had. And we're not saying that they did not have valid reasons to be unhappy with their job placements or what they may have been experiencing. We're not saying that at all. But that does not say that you can then breach the conditions of your terms of employment, and more specifically, the terms of you being in the country, and expect then just to stay there and nothing needs to happen. No. Explore all of the internal processes and opportunities that you may have in relation to what you can do if you're unhappy with your work. And if you're still not happy with your work, then just with all of us, then get on a plane and go back home. So we wanted to highlight this to say that there is still order, there are still laws that need to be followed, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. If you breach those laws, if you break those conditions, then you need to be able to deal with the consequences thereof.
Absolutely. And to your other point, I agree. You were saying that they could have very valid reasons. I mean, the reports we were reading, they said, well, we're supposed to be getting paid this much and we're getting paid less than that. So again, these are issues with bosses and employees that happen all the time. But things have consequences. So then if you decide you're just not going to work, that might work if you were an Israeli citizen, right? That might work in America as an American citizen because you're right, you can go on strike, whatever, but it's a little bit more, unfortunately, as any foreign person, you're a little bit more expendable when you're not a citizen. Like, okay, well, we'll send you back home, whatever. And yeah, that might be cold and not right. But again, this is the complexities of being in the business space. That stuff happens, right? It's nothing to do with, like you said, Israel hating Africans. That businessman could be very well not a great guy. I mean, that happens all the time. But that's that would be more attributed to him and not the entire country. Because again, like what we talked about and how we even set this up was Israel has tons of these programs. And if you read, or if you've come across this story of these Malawian workers, you should also take note and come across the stories of workers who work in Israel, who live in Israel, who absolutely love it. I mean, the two boys that were murdered by Hamas were talking about how much they loved working in Israel and how much of an opportunity they were getting to take home to their families, right? So this is one of many signs that Israel is a country with people in it,
and with laws,
with foreign policy laws, with bosses, with employees, with disgruntled employees, with racism, with sexism, with all that stuff, because every country has those types of issues. Like Olga said, getting ahead of it, because one of the things that invariably the anti-Israel side is going to do is pick this up and say, Israel deports Black Africans because, and here's the other thing, even like just to use your brain for a second, when you see those reports, okay, you can make the title such that it seems racist, right? Israel's deporting Black people. But then you'd have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, if Israel was so dad blasted racist, why are they in the country in the first place? If I'm a country that hates Black people, why would I bring them into my borders just to deport them? There has to be something else to the story. Otherwise, what the heck? So again, guys, for people who are watching, who maybe you're trying to figure all this stuff out, you have to be suspicious of every title of every article that you read. You have to be suspicious of everything that the media, that even media that you trust. You have to look at other sources, because people are employed these days to make things look a certain way, not to report on things, but to make things look a certain way. I said it before, I'll say it again. The whole Ethiopian story, that story went all the way back to 2000, and I think it was 14 or 15, the fake story of Israel forcibly sterilizing Ethiopians. That story has come out. The same publication that wrote a retraction. To this day, people still share the original story and say, see, look what they're doing. It's like, why would they risk people? Why would they risk resources? People died getting Ethiopians into Israel just to sterilize it. Why not just leave them in Ethiopia? It doesn't make any sense. So we have to think deeper. And in this day and age, you have to just be aware and yes, I'm using the word suspicious. You have to be suspicious of every media outlet that tells you information, because chances are they're just telling you their narrative and not what's actually happening.
Another word for suspicious is discerning. You need to be discerning for what you read, what you hear, and be able to apply your mind and think critically.
Absolutely. All right, you all. Let's see. Pastor Matrilla says deep dives are important when the truth is at stake. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Deep dives are very important when the truth is at stake. And if you're not willing to do it, then just stay away from it.
Talking about truth.
Yes. Talking about truth. We want to show you a segment for the upcoming radio show, Truth to Power. Our CEO is launching a radio show on Father's Day. And it's going to be a Sunday. It's going to be a weekly radio show. He's going to talk about all kinds of issues, including Israel, but a whole host of other things. It's about time. We think it's about time that he finally has a platform to where he can talk about all the things that he needs to. So check out this segment now. Producer, go ahead and play that for the people. If it's not there, I can set up the oh, let's see what she says. Oh, okay. In just 1 second, you all. But yes, you guys check it out. It'll come out in just a moment. But Truth to Power Live, we're live on all the social media outlets now. So TTP Live on Instagram, I think, and on Twitter, it's TTP Live 2, because TTP Live has been taken. But you'll find it. You'll see the logo. It's the same logo on all platforms. You see the logo, follow it, give us a follow, join our CEO, our mailing list. Our CEO has a Substack now. Join a Substack page, and you'll be able to get all the broadcasts and share it with your friends and family. Check out Truth to Power Live. All right, y'all. If it's there, if it's ready, producer, go ahead and let's show it to him. Okay, we may be having just some technical difficulties here. If not, then we can move on to the next thing. But I want to.
Well, let's say when it shows, not when it shows, Olga, when it airs. So it airs starting Father's Day, Sunday, the 16th of June at 4 p.m., I believe. And I don't have the radio station that it's on, but it's some www something. We'll be sure to send it out in an IBSI newsletter in the upcoming days. But definitely tune in. And like Joshua said, it is going to be streaming on all social media platforms as well.
Yes, and now it's ready. You guys enjoy.
Is a weekly radio broadcast featuring
Dumisani, Washington,
discussing the Bible, music, politics, culture, the Black American community, current events, geopolitics, Israel, Africa, marriage, family, education, and much more.
Dumisani, Washington
Is a pastor, educator, professional musician, and graduate of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and founder and CEO of the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. He's also an author whose latest book is the second edition of Zionism in the Black Church, Why Standing with Israel Will Be a Defining Issue for Christians of Color in the 21st Century. Truth to Power will debut live Sunday, Father's Day, June 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern on the WNEW HD3 FM 102.7. Learn more at ttplive.com. That's ttplive.com.
Truth to Power Live.
And join us Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, 4 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.
All right, that was Truth to Power Live. You guys go to ttplive.com and you will see all the stuff there. Follow, give them a follow, social media, all that kind of stuff. You guys, it's gonna be amazing. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff.
Yes. Okay, so just as reminders, as we are coming to the end of our program for today, please be sure, because now I see there are lots of new people on here than there were before. Visit our website, ibsi.org, to see more about IBSI, what we do, the content that we put out, the things that we stand for, what we advocate for, our work across the country, and I should say across North America, because we do work in Canada as well. And join become a legacy builder. So you can give a one-time donation, or you can be a legacy builder and have a monthly amount that you give. You can go to ibsi.org/donate. And look at those options. Those are amazing. Those help IBSI so much. People who decide to give monthly, whatever you can, please insert that and help IBSI, help us continue our very, very important work for Black and Jewish and Africa-Israel solidarity. And also join our Substack, ibsi.substack.com. We have a brand new article out that our CEO just pinned and published, and we have a lot more content coming out in the coming weeks. We also invite you to join us next week. We'll be here next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We have events coming up over these next few days. So if you're in New York, come see us on the 15th in Harlem. I'll be there doing music, and I'll be supporting BJ and Zion Cafe in Harlem. Please come out. The Ethiopian food is so amazing. They have such great stuff. It's kosher, and a lot of their stuff is vegan as well. So if you are kosher, for those of you who eat kosher, it is completely kosher at Zion Cafe. We'll be doing live music outside, and join us on the 18th as well in Charlotte with Simon Dang at Shalom Park. You guys, you don't want to miss these really important events. Also, email us, reach out to us about doing events in your area. As a matter of fact, Olga and I will be in California in August, and if we have a lot of open dates right now, and so if you want to book us for an event as a part of the two of us, as part of IBSI, we'll be there, and let us know. We would love to do whatever it is, partner with you. Reach out to us, go to our website, contact us, email us, and let us know. And we'd love to work with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think the only thing I'm going to add there is that all donations are tax deductible.
Yes.
So please know that your giving is going to have some benefit for you, not only improving as well as enabling the work of IBSI, which we wouldn't be able to do without your support, but you will be able to get the tax benefit of that too.
Absolutely. We have a comment here that says, Olga, as a fellow South African, so nice to hear at SA on a pro-Israel forum. You're awesome.
Hey, Tamar. It's a bit late now, right? What's it, 3:00? Unless you're in the United States. And if you are, would love to hopefully catch up with you. So please feel free to reach out via via IBSI's webpage. But yes, I'm so honored to be able to be part of this incredible organization, connecting the Africa-Israel narrative as well as the Black Jewish narrative. Very important for the future of our people.
That's right. That's right. All right, you all. Thank you so much. You guys have an amazing rest of your week. We'll be back here next Monday, same time, same place. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Mm-hmm.